I'm going to pass this off to you.
Sweet.
There. And if as questions come in, I'll just ask them.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for joining us here tonight. So we're going to talk about the Google Nest product portfolio. So there's several products we're going to talk about, but obviously a main focus on the thermostat that we have here. So here's just kind of all the products that we will touch on here tonight. You see up there in the top left corner, that's the Nest Learning Thermostat. So that's probably the product you're most familiar with there. You also see another thermostat up there. That's the Nest Thermostat E. So there are two thermostats available from Nest. Some of the other products we'll touch on, the Nest Protect. So that's the smoke and CO alarm. And then there's several cameras, actually 5 total cameras. So 2 indoor cameras, 2 outdoor cameras, and then a Nest Hello video doorbell. Some of the other products made by Google. So we have our Google Home, our Nest Hub, our Nest Hub Max. A new product, the Nest Wi-Fi, that we'll talk about. Some of these products can really come in handy, especially working from home while we're all at home going through this right now. So we'll touch on all those different products. Like I said, we'll start with the thermostat. It's been a good amount of time talking about the thermostat, talking about a lot of the features and benefits of the thermostat. We're also going to talk about some of the settings that can cause issues. Installing the thermostat's pretty straightforward. It's going to be standard to other thermostats you install. A lot of times, most of the questions we get come from, once the thermostat's installed, my thermostat's doing this, it's turning up, it's turning down, what's going on? So we'll go through some of those settings that can be adjusted to make sure the homeowner's having a good experience with the thermostat. So I play this video here. This kind of introduces the Nest Learning Thermostat. We're on the 3rd generation of this thermostat, but I'll play this video here and we'll talk about the thermostat.
This thermostat will make you love your thermostat. It's in millions of homes around the world. It's saved billions of kilowatt hours of energy so far. And that's just the beginning. Meet the 3rd generation Nest Learning Thermostat. It has a bigger, sharper screen, and it's even better at learning what you like. Just turn it up or down. It will catch on after a few days and create a personalized schedule for you. That's how the Nest Thermostat saves energy. In real homes with real families, it saved so much energy, it paid for itself. To save even more, just follow the leaf. Nest even turns itself down when you leave the house. And you can control it from anywhere. You can see how much energy you use every day and how to use less. Energy companies all over the world are giving the Nest thermostat to their customers because they know it saves energy. That's the most beautiful part. The Nest Learning Thermostat programs itself, then pays for itself.
Cool. So as that video sees, there's a lot of different features in there. The big thing is the energy savings features, and we're going to talk about that. First, just want to point out again that there are 2 thermostats available. On the left is your Nest Learning Thermostat, and on the right is going to be the Thermostat E there. So this is the Nest Thermostat E and the Nest Learning Thermostat here. We'll also compare these thermostats, talk about when each one might be a good application to install, talk about what's the same, what's different, and again, when to install each thermostat. But the big thing with the energy savings features, based on independent studies, this thermostat can help save about 10 to 12% on cooling bills and up to 15% on heating bills. So we're going to go through a lot of the features that lead to that energy savings. But on average, based on an average utility bill, this thermostat can pay for itself in about 2 years. So that is something to make sure homeowners are aware of, and we'll talk about where that comes from. So the first thing here, auto schedule. We'll talk about what that means. And then home away assist. So these are the big things that are going to help save energy. Remote control is pretty straightforward, but everything can be controlled from the app. Then your energy history, Nest Leaf, and then we'll talk about how easy setup is on the thermostat. So first thing here is remote control. The thermostat is controllable just like the rest of the Nest products from the app. So each person in the home, in the family, whoever has access to the Nest app, can control the Nest products, receive notifications from the products, and see what's going on in their house. You can connect up to 10 phones for one home, but I do want to point out that it's very important that when homeowners do have this product, that each person that's going to be in the home creates their own login. So we don't want people sharing logins. We don't want 3 people using the same email address and password to log in. We want each person to create their own account and then be invited to join that house. Talk about this a little later, why that's important, but it helps make sure we're getting the most out of the features on the thermostat. Just some other numbers to go through real quick. It comes up a lot, but how many thermostats, how many Nest Protects? The big one is you can have up to 20 thermostats per home. You can have up to 3 homes per app. So what that means is if you have your primary house where you spend the majority of your time, but say you also have a lake house and a place you rent out, you are able to see all 3 of those different homes from the app, control them from there. So like I said, I haven't met anyone that has 20 thermostats in the home yet, so that hasn't been an issue, but it is an option to add up to 20 thermostats to the home. Next up, we'll just show you what the view looks like. So this obviously on the left here is what it's going to look like from a phone. You see your thermostat there, so that's going to be the little blue circle, Nest Protect, and then that would be if you have a camera there in that living room. So this is viewable on phones, tablets, and on your computer. Here's what the view looks like when you're looking at it from a tablet. It's pretty cool there on a bigger screen because you get a room by room view. So you can also see each product in each room. So you see here we have the entryway, the kitchen, the office, and the kids' bedroom. Each room has different products that reside in there, and you're able to see those all from the view. Again, you can also look at this on your computer. So you have the option to view this stuff from the Nest app, on your phone, on a computer. You can also log in on your computer. Talk about auto schedule. So we'll go back a little bit here to a study showed only about 10% of programmable thermostats were ever actually programmed. So people were spending extra money on thermostats. They wanted a programmable thermostat, but they were never actually had a program built into them. So you put it on the wall and no one would touch it again except to adjust the temperature. There weren't actually schedules programmed into this thermostat. So Nest, when they first came out with the thermostat, they said, why don't we make this easier for people? Why don't we come out with a thermostat that doesn't need programmed? So the idea is you hear the Nest Learning Thermostat. What that means is it's simple. The thermostat's going to program itself. So the first day, homeowner has the thermostat on there. They're just going to adjust the thermostat how they normally would. So if they get home from work at 5 o'clock and they want it to be 70 degrees, they're going to adjust the thermostat to 70 degrees. They go to bed at 10. They like it a little warmer. They set it up to 74. And they want to sleep when it's, they want to have it at 74 while they're sleeping, they're going to do that. So the first day you have this thermostat on there, all it's going to do is listen to the manual adjustments. So those adjustments can be made from the app and also at the thermostat. First couple days, that's how it's going to learn. You're just going to manually adjust the thermostat to how you feel comfortable. After about the second, third day, it's going to start using some of the other features that we'll talk about, like home away assist, and help build other things into the schedule. After about a week or so, it's going to have a pretty firm schedule built. So it's going to have a schedule for each day of the week, and it's also going to have a schedule for heating and cooling mode. So after that first week, has a schedule built in there, and that schedule is not going to be adjusted just from one change. So you're going to have to see repeated events to change that schedule. You have a question here?
Yeah, we got a couple questions already. All right, so first one is from Greg. Now you probably will get to this at some point, but he's already asked a question, so let's go ahead and talk about it. Can it be used on a dual fuel system?
Yeah, so we will talk about that, some of the wiring, but the answer is yes, it can be used on a dual fuel application. We're not going to get into specific wirings for each scenario, but we can do dual fuel. If you look that up online, if you just simply Google dual fuel Nest application, it'll give you that wiring. I'll also show you a compatibility tool that'll show you how to get those answers for you.
Okay, and both thermostats or just the learning?
Just on the learning thermostat, sorry. So the Nest E cannot do dual fuel.
Okay, great. Next question we have is from Barry. He says, best way to label or name your thermostat. So if you have those 20 thermostats in your home, how do you label them?
Yeah, so that's also something we'll talk about a little bit during we're going to go through the installation. But it's going to give you the option when you're installing it to name which room it's going in.
Okay.
So like you see, not that picture anymore, but you would be able to, if it's in the kitchen, that's where you'd have a name. If it's a weird room that's not on that list, you also have the option to manually go in there and name the thermostat. So you want to put it in the appropriate room just so on the app they are able to view it that way.
Okay.
Cool.
That's it for now.
All right, sweet. So yeah, I was saying after about a week or so, that schedule is going to be built in there, and it's going to have to see a pattern or consistent change to update that schedule. So consistent or pattern changes are going to be, say one Monday in a row, one Monday you get home, you turn the thermostat up to 70, or you turn it down to 68 because you got home early from work and you want it to be colder. That's not going to automatically build that into the schedule. It's going to have to see a pattern. So a pattern would be 2 days in a row. So maybe 2 Mondays in a row, your work schedule changed and you're getting home earlier. That's when it's going to incorporate that into the schedule. More efficient changes also take priority over less efficient set points. So if the thermostat sees repeated efficient set points, it's going to build those into the schedule. A question we get a lot is, hey, my thermostat's doing all these crazy things. It's turning up and down without me touching it. How do I turn this off? So one thing you can describe to your homeowner is that you don't have to learn that, you don't have to use this learning feature. You don't have to use this auto schedule. So when you're setting the thermostat up, you can turn this off and just set up a programmable thermostat. So if you want an Nest thermostat, but you don't want the learning feature, you can turn this off and just set up a schedule or have it hold 70 degrees year round. Last thing I'd like to point out is when you do, say you have this thermostat on there for a month, you really like the schedule, it's learned well what the set points you like, you can turn off the learning feature. So that's not going to erase the schedule, that's just going to eliminate the learning going forward. So you're not going to have changes to your schedule, you're going to have a set schedule, and you're not going to have changes once you turn that learning feature off. If you want to get rid of the schedule, your day-to-day life completely changed, you'll have to go in there in the schedule and manually delete those different events on there. Next we'll talk about, I mentioned home away assist and eco mode, but again, this is another one of the ways that the thermostat is helping save energy. Home away assist, what this means is inside that thermostat there's a activity sensor in there. So think of it as a motion sensor. And what's going to happen is when the thermostat doesn't detect any motion or activity in the house, it's going to go to this away mode. In away mode, you're going to activate when the thermostat detects that no one's home, it's going to go into eco mode. Think of eco mode as setback temperatures. So maybe in the summer, that setback temperature you have set at 76 degrees. So the idea behind this is, hey, no one's home during the day. Why should we be running at 70 degrees all day long? These eco temperatures are adjustable, so you can have this discussion with the homeowner at installation, what temperatures they'd like to use for those eco temperatures. Another thing I like to point out, a question that always comes up is, hey, I got this thermostat, but it's in a weird mechanical room or it's in the family dining room that no one ever uses. How is the thermostat going to detect motion in the house? The other thing that's happening is the app is looking for people connected to the Wi-Fi. So if the thermostat doesn't detect motion, then it's going to check, hey, is anyone connected to the Wi-Fi still that has the Nest app? If someone's still connected to the Wi-Fi, it's going to know you're home, and it's not going to go to those away temperatures. So that's a way that just because the thermostat's tucked away somewhere, it's not going to automatically go to those away temperatures. I mentioned earlier it's important that each person has their own login, and this is why. You can imagine if 3 people are using the same login, the thermostat's going to get confused pretty easily about, hey, who's home, who's away, what's going on here, because we're all sharing a login. There's other products too that help with this, so we'll talk about the Nest Protect, which is our smoke and CO detector, but the wired version of that also has an activity sensor in it that's looking for people in the home, so it doesn't go to those away temperatures. Again, this is something we get a lot of questions on is, hey, I don't want this. I have an irregular schedule. People are coming and going. Kids are coming and going at all different times throughout the day. Can I turn this off? You can turn home away assist off. This is going to be done in settings, so I'll show you later on the thermostat what that looks like, but you're going to go to settings, home away assist, and you're going to have the option to turn this off. So again, the question will come up, hey, I just want my thermostat to hold 70 degrees. Am I able to do that? You can do that, and this is going to be how. So you're going to want to turn off that learning feature. You're going to want to turn off the home away assist, and that'll help lead to that. That can also eliminate a lot of callbacks if you are getting questions. If people don't want to use, they want the Nest on the wall, but they don't want to use some of these features, this is where you're going to go in and adjust those settings. The next setting, yep, we got a question here.
Oh yeah, we got a couple coming through. All right, so first question here is, do you pay a monthly fee for Wi-Fi or internet to be able to connect to Wi-Fi or internet with your thermostat?
Okay, so not on the thermostat, there's no fee you're paying, so you're able to use the app, connect to the Wi-Fi through that. There's no fee for that. We will talk about the cameras. There are some subscription packages available for the cameras, but for the rest of the products, the thermostat, the Nest Protect, you're not paying anything to have those products connected.
So Danny has an interesting question about information. So it says, he asks, it seems like Google products are collecting a lot of information. So what and where does all of the Google do with the info that it's collecting?
Yeah, so that question comes up a lot of times with the cameras as well. But the one thing I mentioned, so I talked about how the app is looking for people connected to the Wi-Fi. It's not actually tracking your phone all the time. So all it's doing is looking for people that are connected to the Wi-Fi. So the Nest app isn't recording everywhere you go. So when you're out of the house, it knows you're away. It's not recording or tracking where you're going. The rest of the information that you put into the thermostat, that information isn't shared. That information is just to help adjust settings and have the thermostat learn those features. So it's not like this information is something that's being sold or shared with anyone else besides to help enhance the product.
Okay. Our next question is, so how can I download the app?
Yeah, so the app, if you go to the Google Play Store through Apple, you're just going to download the Nest app. We'll also talk about the Google Home app, but right now for these products like the thermostat, it's best to download the Nest app. We'll talk a little more about installation later and what the process is like, things we need homeowners to have, things contractors you guys should have ready to go when you're going to install a thermostat.
Cool. Next question is from Carl. He asks, will the Nest work with zone boards and zone systems?
So the thermostat can work on different, depends on the zone system, but you're going to have a thermostat in each zone. So it's not going to integrate with zone boards for sense, but if you for each zone of the house, if you have a house that has multiple zones and you can run thermostat too, that's when it's going to work in that situation.
So just each zone needs a
Each
thermostat.
zone will need a thermostat, that's correct.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about some of the faults that Nests have seen recently? Something about chattering. Have you heard much about this?
I haven't ran into that one. Is it when the thermostat's in a certain mode or?
It was just, they were asking about it chattering, kind of making like a noise like if you're cold.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not 100% sure what would be going on there.
Okay.
It's not one that I've ran across a lot right now. But yeah, it seems like a case by case where questions, something like that could come up. It could have to do with the power. We'll talk about some of the common things that come up, like the common wire. We'll talk about that, maybe something to do with that. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit too.
And we'll make sure that we reach out to you and find out ourselves. Like, we'll ask our engineers about that as well. Okay. So the next question is from Alberto. He says, so what happens when somebody's home all day with the learning modes? And
Yes, so when someone's home all day, it's going to have a schedule built in that's part of the day. So it's going to have, if that person's there all day, say it's the weekend, you're going to have a different schedule for that day. So it's not going to go to those away temperatures. The away temperatures, or the eco temperatures, are really when no one's away. When someone's there, it's going to follow that regularly scheduled day throughout that time.
Okay. That's an interesting question from Scott. He asked, does it remember the heating settings that I used after the summer cooling season?
Yeah, so that schedule will still be built in there. So it's going to learn a different schedule for heating and cooling, but you can go back to that original schedule you had in there.
Okay. You got a lot of questions coming through.
Keep them coming.
This question is from Greg. He asks, is there a red link style connection available where the T-stat is not physically connected to the system? So is there some sort of EIM or some sort of module that allows wireless communication?
Yeah, so that's, there's not something offered by Nest for that at this time, so they don't have that option. We'll talk about the temperature sensor. That kind of gives you a remote option for the thermostat. You can place that temperature sensor and have that act as the thermostat, but not an option right now for exactly what he's talking about there.
Sure, but I guess you could put the thermostat next to a piece of equipment, put the temperature sensor out.
Yeah, so I've seen that. The thermostat's down next to the furnace, wherever it is, in the basement, in the attic. And then you can take, we'll talk about this here in a little bit, but this is just a remote temperature sensor. So you can place that where you normally put a thermostat in the kitchen, wherever you want to put that. And then this thing can actually act as your thermostat and read temperature from the sensor at all times. So we'll talk about that a little bit, but yeah, that is a way you could do that. Like I mentioned, if the thermostat's in a mechanical room, you can use one of these temperature sensors there.
Okay, next question I have. So when you say, this is from Bob, when you say it looks for someone on Wi-Fi, is it checking phones with the app or phones in general, or what does it look like for you and
Yeah, so that's going to go through the Nest app. So it's going to look for people with that Nest app logged into that home connected to the Wi-Fi. So that's why I mentioned it's really important that each person has their own login. Don't have time to get into everything with the app tonight, walk through the settings, but there's a place to invite. If you go into the settings, there's places to invite a family member. That's where you're going to do that, share access to the home with them through there, and that's what it's looking for.
Okay. Ferris asks a question, does the app have a demo so we can practice setting something up without actually having a device?
So there's not a demo or a pro version of the app right now. That's something they've talked about, where a contractor could have a separate app where you wire up the thermostat, you get it installed, you get it added, and then the homeowner can simply type in a code or something. So that's something talked about and feedback we get that's passed along.
Okay. Next question is from Ray. He asked, what warranties does it have?
Yeah, so warranty is a big thing we'll get into. I have a couple slides on that, so I'll save that. But the one thing I will say now is that being a Nest Pro, a contractor buying from Jackson Systems, you do have quite a bit of advantage versus retail stats. So we'll spend a good amount of time on that and how you get that warranty.
Next question is from Ricardo. He asks, is your thermostat applicable to mini split systems?
So that's it's gonna depend on the contact you can get from the mini split. So I know some mini splits will have a dry contact where you could use that thermostat on a mini split. But yeah, there are options for that we can do there.
Next question from Greg. He asked, is the remote sensor motion sensing?
No, it's not. So all that the temperature sensor is right now is just sensing temperature, so not a motion sensor in that remote temperature sensor.
Okay. And the last question for this round is from Ben. He asks, how many sensors can you add?
Yeah, so you can have up to 6 sensors per thermostat.
Okay.
So for each thermostat, you can have 6 sensors added to that there. Cool, we good? All right, go on here to early on and time to temperature. So I like to point this out, looking at the thermostat here. This is a question that comes up more than you would think, but you see the little 76 there. That is the current temperature that is being sensed by the thermostat. The big 70, that's the target temperature. So that's what you have the thermostat set to. And then I know it's hard to see, but if you see on your screen there, it says in 2+ hours. So what that means is that's how long the thermostat predicts it's going to take to reach that target temperature. So from 76 to 70, the thermostat's predicting it's going to take over 2 hours. How does the thermostat know? Is it just guessing? There's a lot built into how the thermostat determines that. So time to temperature that's not going to show up the first day or two you have the thermostat installed. That's not going to show up until the thermostat learns how well the system's worked in the past to determine how long it's going to take to reach that target temperature. The other thing the thermostat is doing is it's looking at the weather forecast to know, hey, is it really hot right now? Is it really cold? Is it mild right now? Are we going to be able to get to that target temperature quicker? It's a good time to point out that the Nest thermostats, either one of them does not come with an outdoor temperature sensor. It's going to use that Wi-Fi connection to get the local weather over the internet. But early on in time to temperature, so again, that's something that, where the thermostat, there's a couple different options here. So with early on, what this means is, so say at 6 p.m. we have a target temperature of 71 degrees. So with early on enabled, the thermostat's going to start heating here at 4:30 to make sure we hit that target temperature of 71 on time. With early on disabled, it's not going to start heating until 6 p.m. and that's when you'll get it. So it might not hit that target temperature until 7:30, but that's working more truly like a programmable stat where we're not going to turn on, we're not going to reach that temperature, we're not going to start running until the set time. So again, this is a feature you can turn on and off. You're going to go into settings, the gear icon on the thermostat, then you're going to go into Nest Sense. So most of these settings that I've talked about and the next couple that we will talk about, you're going to go to settings, which is the gear icon on the thermostat, and then we're going to go to Nest Sense. So again, if you don't want early on, if you just want it to work like a traditional programmable thermostat, if you don't want the system turning on early, you can disable this. You disable early on, and the thermostat's not going to start running until 6 p.m. Next setting I want to talk about here is heat pump balance. This is another setting in the thermostat that can lead to some energy savings and also more comfort for the homeowner. So with heat pumps, you're used to just setting a lockout temperature on that heat pump. So at 40 degrees, whatever it is, 35, you're going to lock out the heat pump. You're going to turn on that auxiliary heat. So those heat strips are going to turn on when it's colder than 40 degrees outside, whatever that number is. Well, Nest came up with a way that's a little smarter and put some more information into that to help determine when to run the heat pump and when to turn on that auxiliary heat. So the idea here is that the heat pump, running the heat pump is a lot less expensive than running that electric heat or that auxiliary heat. Sometimes there's numbers out there that auxiliary heat can be somewhere between 2 and 5 times more expensive to run than a heat pump, depending on the application. So there's 4 settings here and under heat pump balance. We have a max savings, a max comfort, a balance, and then you can turn this off. So if you look at max savings here, what's going to happen is the heat pump is going to run up to 5 hours early to reach the target temperature, so we don't have to use that auxiliary heat. So this is going to takes longer to heat. You might actually miss set point by a little bit of time. So if you have it settled at 6 p.m., it might not get there in time, but it's going to save money, save energy not using the auxiliary heat. Under max comfort, it's going to take a lot less time, but it's going to use more energy. So what it's going to do is it's going to use that heat pump for as much as it can, but it's going to run the auxiliary heat when it needs to make sure we hit the target temperature. There's also a balance, so that's the one I recommend is balanced. That's going to take into account both. It's going to try to run the heat pump for as long as possible, but it is going to use that auxiliary heat when necessary. One other thing I like to point out here on the graph on the bottom is this person has it set to be 62 degrees at 10 p.m., but 71 degrees when they wake up at 9 a.m. I guess they're getting a lot of sleep that night. But what the thermostat's going to do is it's going to realize, hey, it's going to be freezing cold in the morning. The weather forecast is calling for 5 degrees outside. We're going to warm up 2 degrees throughout the night so we don't have to crank that auxiliary heat in the morning. So that eliminates the need to run that expensive auxiliary heat for as long. So you see here, we don't do that. We don't run the heat pump through the night, and then we have to climb higher in the morning using that expensive auxiliary heat. Again, this is something, if you don't want this setting, if you talk about it with your the homeowner, you just want to set a lockout temperature, that's what they're used to, you can do that. You're going to go in here, you're going to turn this off, and then you're going to set an aux lockout temperature like you're used to. Any questions on this stuff, or are we good to keep going here? I'll talk about these. Here's a couple more settings here that we can adjust. So again, I want to point out that these settings can be reached. You go into your thermostat. On the home screen, you're going to go to the gear icon, that's settings, and then you're going to go over into Nest Sense, and that's where these settings come from. So cool to dry, this is another setting. This one comes default off. When you get the thermostat, you'd have to turn this one on. But if a homeowner is worried about humidity in the house, what this is going to do is it's going to run excess air conditioning to help eliminate the humidity in the house. So this would be for a system where we don't have a humidifier, don't have a dehumidifier, but we're going to run the air conditioner longer to make sure we eliminate that humidity. So the way it works is there is a humidity sensor built into the thermostat. If that hits 70% relative humidity, we're going to turn on the air conditioning even if the temperature is already satisfied. So this will go up to 3 degrees below the set point, 5 degrees below the eco temperatures, but it is a good way, if someone is worried about humidity in the home, it's a way to make sure we keep that below 70 degrees. Obviously your house is going to be a couple degrees colder than you have it set to, but it is a good way to eliminate that humidity. Sunblock, I think this is a really important one, a really good one to turn on the thermostat. So imagine you have a thermostat, we install it here directly across from direct sunlight. So you see every day at the same time, this is just a graph of the temperature here that the thermostat's sensing. So every day at the same time, there's a spike from say 4 to 6 p.m. So the thermostat with this feature enabled, the thermostat comes with a built-in light sensor. So the thermostat's going to be able to realize that, hey, it's not actually 3 degrees warmer in the house every time during these from 4 to 6. It's going to realize that it's getting hit by direct sunlight, and that's what's causing the increase in temperature. So with sun block enabled, it's going to eliminate that. So you see the green here on the graph, that's going to eliminate those spikes. It's going to realize we don't need to turn on the air conditioning every day between the hours of 4 to 6. That's just being caused by the sunlight. Another cool part about this sunblock feature is that with the weather forecast, the thermostat's also looking at the sunrise and sunset times and takes that into account to adjust that graph there. Last one I want to talk about is AirWave. Again, this is just another thing incorporated into the thermostat to help homeowners save energy, save money on their cooling bill. So when you're about a degree away from set point or so, the compressor is going to shut off, but the fan is going to continue to run. The idea behind this is that the coil's still cold, and there's still cold air in the ductwork that we can get out by just running the fan. So obviously running the compressor is the most expensive part. You're going to shut off the compressor about 10 minutes early, but you're still going to get the last degree of cooling by running the fan throughout that. Again, these are all under Nest Sense, so you go to your gear icon, you go settings, Nest Sense, and that's where these can be turned on and off. Yeah, we'll take a couple questions over here.
Yeah. Give you a quick break. Our first question here comes from Dennis. He says, is there a difference between the Nest thermostat that a contractor gets from a distributor versus the Nest thermostat that is provided by, say, a utility company or something you can buy online from their website?
Yeah, so Dennis is about 10 slides ahead of me. We're going to talk about the differences in the thermostat. So I will tell you the thermostat itself is the same thermostat. So if they got that from a big box store, if they got it from somewhere else, it's the same one they're going to purchase from Jackson Systems, but there are differences, big differences that make it a big advantage to buy the thermostat through Jackson Systems, your Nest distributor.
Okay, we'll start talking about that. Next question is from Oscar. Do you still need a C wire to be connected to the thermostat?
Yeah, we're going to talk about the common wire as well, but our recommendation is that anytime you can to run that common wire to make sure the thermostat does not lose, the battery in that thermostat does not lose power. So I have a slide on that we're going to talk about. That's a good question. Yeah, we do. That is our recommendation, that anytime you can to run that common wire. That just helps ensure, so there is a way we're stealing power to keep the thermostat powered without a common wire, but just to be foolproof, it is best to add that common wire anytime you can.
Okay. Next question from Emilio says, does the Nest thermostat have geofencing options?
Yeah, so when I talked about earlier, it's not exactly geofencing what we're doing with looking for people connected to the Wi-Fi through the app, but that's the idea of it, that your house is this Wi-Fi wall. The app is looking for people connected to the Wi-Fi through the app.
Next question is from Dennis. He says, so it uses current forecasting temperatures for balance point instead of using outdoor sensor?
So balance, is he talking about on a heat pump with a...
So basically, yeah, does it use an outdoor sensor or does it use the...
No, so there's no outdoor sensor.
Okay.
So it's using the weather forecast. Again, we'll show you on installation, but it's going to know your location based on the Wi-Fi network, but it's also going to ask you to confirm that, and then it's just pulling the local weather information from the internet.
Okay. This question's from Chris. He says, is the AirWave feature going to throw all the moisture back into the house since the compressor is no longer cooling an evaporator coil?
So the idea is that this is just going to run for a couple minutes. The fan is just going to continue to run for a couple minutes while the coil's still cold. So this isn't something where it's going to run for an hour without the compressor. The idea is that the coil's still cold for a couple minutes. After the compressor shuts off, there's cold air in the ductwork that we can push through with the compressor shut off. But really, these settings are up to you guys, whether you think they're best for the application. Like I said, these three we showed here actually come default off. So it'd be something you need to turn on when you're installing the thermostat.
Okay, and I want to quickly apologize to those online. Our microphone was muted for myself, so I do apologize. You weren't able to hear some of those questions. Hopefully you were able to get some of those answers. So next question from Jeffrey. It says, so running the fan and shutting down the compressor only increase humidity. Okay, so we kind of covered that one already.
Yeah, again, that's not a big one I'd worry about. It's just a setting that's in there that has the ability to save energy, but it's not something that's a focal point of thermostat, not something you have to worry about on installation.
Great. And then this question's from Oscar. He asks, can you input your company information anywhere?
Yep, so that's another one we're going to show you here in just a couple minutes, but that's a big part. That's something that's different about buying the thermostat through Jackson Systems, through your distributor. That's a big difference there, and we'll talk about that for a little bit.
Okay, sounds good. That's it for now.
Cool. So the last thing here on these settings, we talked about all these ways the thermostat can help you save energy. So they came out with a way that homeowners can view how long the systems ran for each day. So you see here on the left, it shows you, I think that's a week or 8 days or so, that the thermostat's showing you how long the system ran each day. So Friday the 12th you see there was 10 and a quarter hours. Thursday, we jumped up to 20 and a half hours. So you might be wondering, why did my system run for double the amount of time that it did on Friday? And you're going to see that icon there. So that's going to be the weather icon. What that means is that something to do with the weather, that's the reason for that increase or decrease in usage. So I'm guessing on Thursday 11th, this was January 11th, it was 2 degrees outside. Your system had to run all day to keep up. Wednesday, this must be Ohio or Indiana, there was no usage. So somehow we went from running 20 hours that day to 0 hours the next day. I like to also point out the nest leaf there. So anytime you're at a set point where you see the nest leaf, that means it's an energy efficient set point and you're gonna get that nest leaf. The other two icons here, the adjustments, so you see the little guy icon there. That's gonna mean someone made a manual adjustment and that's why it caused an increase in usage. So see on the 8th there, someone was homesick and cold all day, they cranked the heat up and that's why the system ran longer. The last one there is home away assist. So this icon will pop up when the thermostat was able to detect that no one was home. We went into away mode. The system only ran for an hour because we didn't need to heat an empty house all day. So again, this is viewable on the thermostat, but I'd really recommend viewing it on the app. Just something to point out to homeowners that say, hey, we're selling you this thermostat. It's going to help you save energy. Here's a way to view how you're doing. You're also going to get a report if you opt into it at the end of the month that shows how many nest leaves you got and how many hours your system ran for. So a cool thing you can do there is compare. It'll show you your March usage and your April usage. Compare those. Obviously, it's going to depend on the season, but it'll show you how long your system ran for compared to that previous month. So I want to talk about the Nest Thermostat E here for a little bit. This is the E here. So you can see the display is different, it looks differently, but the one thing I want to point out is that these energy saving features, a lot of the different features, the settings that we need to go into adjust are going to be exactly the same. So you're going to go into the same spot to find those on the thermostat. And you see here the remote control, so the same app. All the Nest products we're going to talk about tonight are going to reside in the Nest app. So you're not jumping between a different app for your smoke alarm and your thermostat, they're going to reside in the same app. But again, the energy savings features are going to be the same, your home away assist. We'll talk about a few of the things that are different here in a slide or two as well. But like I mentioned, most of those things there, really easy to use. So the thermostat's you're gonna turn it up and down the same way, just the ring on the outside. The other thing I'll point out is your button is just there on the bottom. So when you do need to select something, you're just gonna hit that button there on the bottom. Go to the next one here and talk about some of the differences. So the Nest Learning Thermostat, this is kind of the best in class thermostat. This is the top of the line thermostat. It's going to work with about 95% of 24 volt systems. Nest Thermostat E, we'll look at this here in a slide or two, but it doesn't have as many connectors, not as compatible with as many different systems. The display is a little different too. So the display on the Learning Thermostat, you're going to get a little clearer display. You're going to be able to see things like a clock, analog clock, digital clock. You can display the weather on the screen of that thermostat. On the Nest Thermostat E, it's really just focused on temperature. You're going to see the current temperature and your target temperature there. We'll talk about the warranty too, but this is a 1 year out of the box. This is 2 year out of the box, but we'll talk about that the 3 year extended warranty on this one, 5 year extended warranty on this thermostat. We'll talk about those here in just a slide or two. So again, the major difference has to come down with these connectors here and the types of systems that they're compatible with. So looking at the Nest Thermostat E, you can do 1 stage of heating and 2 stages of cooling, or 1 stage of cooling and 2 stages of heating. You can do, so see in here it just lists the different types of systems we work with, heat pump, radiant heat, oil, hot water, solar, geothermal. But looking at the Nest Learning Thermostat, you just see the more terminals that we're going to get into. We're going to talk about installation, what each terminal does. Most of them you'll be used to, but we will talk about some of the ones that are a little different there. So the biggest thing, this thermostat works great. It is more of an entry-level price than the Nest Learning Thermostat, but you're going to get those same energy-saving features just might not be able to do. If you have a 3-stage heat, you're going to want to go with the Nest Learning thermostat. If you have dual fuel, again, that's when you want to go with the Nest Learning thermostat over the Nest E. But again, for the majority of systems, the Nest E is going to work just fine and be a great application. Last thing I want to talk about here with the thermostats is the Nest temperature sensor. So I know we mentioned these in a question just a little bit ago, but here's the temperature sensor. You can see it here. It's just a small little puck. And just has a watch battery in there. So it's really easy to install. You're just going to pull a little battery tab, like on a lot of electronic products, that's going to activate, and you're going to be able to add that to the app. You can place this where you want. There's a place in the back if you want to mount it somewhere. There is a screw mount there. But the way it works is, we mentioned earlier, hey, what if my thermostat's down next to the furnace? Well, this is where this comes in perfect situation. You're going to place this in a common room, so whether it's the kitchen or somewhere on the wall where you'd normally have the thermostat, and then this thing can sense temperature and act as your thermostat. You're still going to get all the same features on the app, but you're going to be able to sense temperature from a different room. Like I mentioned before, you can have up to 6 of these per thermostat, and you can set them in different rooms. So say in the morning, you're in the kitchen, but for whatever reason, the kitchen's downstairs. It's always too cold in that room in the winter. So what you do is you put one of these in your kitchen, and you're going to go into the settings and adjust the schedule. So from 6 to 9 a.m., we're going to read temperature from this sensor instead of at the thermostat. Say you go upstairs at night to the bedroom, and the bedroom's always too hot. So you put one of these temperature sensors, again, in the bedroom, and during nighttime, this is going to sense temperature at this sensor instead of at the thermostat. Real easy to install. There's nothing to it. These will come in a 1 and 3 pack, and it's compatible with both thermostats. Before we talk about the pro benefits, do we have anything we need to?
Yeah. Sorry if you already covered this. Ricardo just quickly asked about O and B terminals for heat pump systems. Does both thermostats have them?
Yeah, they do. So if I go back here a slide, a couple slides, you see the OB terminal there. It's combined with the star terminal, so we're going to spend a good amount of time on the star terminal, but yes, both are compatible with the heat pump system there.
Okay, so it's the same terminal as the star terminal.
So, sorry, on the Nest Thermostat E, they combined the star terminal with the OB. So just not as many, like I said, not as many options. So on the Nest Learning thermostat, that star connector could be your emergency heat or your auxiliary heat. You're not going to be able to have all those different options on the Nest Thermostat E.
Okay. This question is from Ferris. Does the transformer polarity have any effect with the operation of the Nest?
Transformer polarity. I'm not entirely sure what he's...
So we can check on that, Ferris.
Yeah, we'll check on that. I'm not entirely sure on that one, but...
Okay. Next question from Chris. So what does being a Nest Pro actually get you?
Yeah, so that's a perfect segue. We'll take a break from the questions and talk about this slide here. So first I want to encourage anyone who is on here, that means you have some sort of interest in the Nest products, to go online and sign up as a Nest Pro. So what this means, your company, there's some company information needed, prove you're an actual contractor. Nest.com/pro, you can go there and find information about signing up. So what's going to happen when you sign up is you're going to get this 6-digit Pro ID number. So this Pro ID number is very important when installing Nest thermostats. So I just suggest create a contact in your phone when you have your Pro ID, save Nest Pro ID, put that number in there, and you'll never lose it again. So the first thing it's going to do during installation, the thermostat's going to ask you, are you a Nest Pro? Obviously, once you're a Nest Pro, you're going to select yes. Then you're going to input your Pro ID number. So it's just a 6-digit number. Again, you're going to turn the ring. You're going to enter that Pro ID number. First thing it's going to do is going to save your company information in the thermostat. So you see here is the example climate control. It gives you their phone number, their website, and then their email address. So that information is then saved in the thermostat. It's our way of private labeling that thermostat. And the second thing it's going to do is activate the extended Pro warranty. So these thermostats, when purchased from Jackson Systems, they are the same thermostat, but they're a different SKU number. So these are a Pro. The packaging's a little different. internally it's the same thermostat, but it is a different SKU number. So when you purchase a Pro SKU and you put in your Nest Pro ID, that is when that warranty is then extended. So that's going to be 3-year extended warranty on the Nest Thermostat E and 5-year extended warranty on the Nest Learning Thermostat. So that's the biggest advantage you get as being a Nest Pro, is that extended warranty option by entering your Nest Pro ID number. The other thing though that's going to happen with your company information saved in the thermostat, we have a thing called Furnace Heads Up. So what this is a notification that a homeowner will get when the system is experiencing a problem. The problem right now that leads to this is short cycling. So if the furnace is coming on and running for less than 15 minutes repeatedly, that's when you're going to get this furnace heads up. So this is a notification that the homeowner will get on the thermostat and on their phone, and it's going to give you the option to contact a pro. This is really important where your information's in there, because Nest is driving that business back to you as the pro that installed that thermostat. So if we were to select yes, contact a pro, that information is going to be saved in there. They're going to have your phone number, and again, that's going to bring that customer back to you. So the Pro exclusives, obviously again, the 5-year warranty on the Nest Learning Thermostat, 3 years on the Thermostat E. The packaging is different. So if you look at this packaging versus one we bought from a retail store, the packaging is different. The last thing here is this 24/7 Pro tech support line. So this number is designed for Nest Pros, not for homeowners. 855 VIP Nest. Again, this is going to be a tech support number that Nest Pros can call. So when you call, they are going to ask usually for that Nest Pro ID number to verify that you are a pro, and then they'll help you out with your question there. Question we get a lot is, hey, my customer, I'm at the homeowner's house, they bought a thermostat from somewhere else, they got it for Christmas, can I still put my Pro ID in there and get the extended warranty? So no, the answer, you're not able to get the extended warranty, but go ahead and still enter your Pro ID, because again, it's going to save your information in there. But it has to be a Pro SKU to get that extended warranty. You're not going to be able to get an extended warranty on a thermostat bought from a big box store from somewhere else. It has to be the Pro SKU with the Pro ID entered in there. So that's a big advantage you have against retail, is the option to get that extended warranty. So I'd encourage you, a homeowner has a thermostat, say, hey, I'll give you this, the Pro thermostat, give you Pro installation. I'm going to give you this extended warranty that only can be offered through me as a Nest Pro. So it should clear up some of the questions on the extended warranty and the benefits of being a pro. Last thing I just want to mention here quickly is that there are utility rebates available a lot of times for the thermostats and sometimes even the other Nest products. So these are available to your homeowners that purchase this product from you. If you go to nest.com/rebates and rewards, there is a little widget there. Type in your zip code, you are able to see eligible rebates for the area.
I got a quick question about the actual, Chris asks, do you have to purchase a Pro ID?
No, so you don't have to purchase, it's free to sign up. Like I said, they're just going to verify some things to make sure that you are a licensed contractor, but there is no fee to sign up.
Where was that link again that you could be?
So nest.com/pro, I don't have it listed on here, but you'll see a place. First you'll create an account, and then you can sign up there to become a Nest Pro.
One more time.
Nest.com/pro is where you want to go.
Okay.
To sign up to be a Nest Pro. So you'll see, once you get to that website, you'll see directions for signing up.
Okay. Thank you. We did have one question about the sensor. Does it sense humidity?
No, so this right now is just sensing temperature. One thing I will say that, not making any promises, but there sometimes are, we'll talk about the Nest Protect, but like on that, when the Nest Protect first came out, there was issues with detecting with steam, setting it off as a smoke alarm, but there was a humidity sensor in there, they just hadn't had it activated yet, so they try to get these products out as soon as possible. All they had to do is shoot a software update out, and that eliminated some of those issues where we were getting false alarms for steam. So I'm not, all these products, there are options down the road for stuff like that, but it's just, right now it's just sensing temperature.
Okay, then a follow-up question from John. He asks, will it average?
And it will not average right now, so if you have multiple in the house, they're not going to average. Again, that's something that can be pushed out. That's feedback we get, important to us, but the feedback that we pass along, and hopefully that's something that's coming.
Here's an interesting question from Ferris, and he says, so what's the best way to use a Nest with electric baseboards?
Electric baseboards.
So that's gonna
yeah. So that would, really, that's just a, we'd have to make sure we have the right number of wires there. But that's something where that would be a situation where I can show you a compatibility checker that's going to pull up information on those baseboard heaters. There's some, it just depends on the voltage from those, what we're getting. So I know baseboard heaters can be weird sometimes. Got high or a low voltage, something like that. So that things we'd want to double check. We'll talk about some of the systems that are not compatible, but again, that's going to be a case by case where we'll have to look at wiring for those different situations.
Okay. Then this question is from Brian. So did you say that the stat can manage different sensors at different times of the day in the learned program of the stat?
So you will manually go in to set those. It's not just going to learn, but it can. So right now you can't just set it for make up your own hours. It's going to have set periods in there. So it's going to have a morning, an afternoon, an evening, and a nighttime. But yes, you can select different rooms. So if you want the kitchen in the morning, you want the bedroom at night, you can select that in the thermostat. And then that is going to incorporate into your schedule every day going forward.
Okay.
Cool.
I think we're good at the moment.
All right, cool. We're going to jump into installation of the thermostat. Run through this fairly quickly because it's pretty straightforward, the thermostat actually installing it, but most of those settings are the issues that I talked about there. So again, compatible with, this is, when I'm talking about installation, I'm mainly talking for this tonight, I'm talking about the Nest Learning thermostat. So you see here the connectors again, 1 and 2 stage cooling, up to 3 stages of heat. Can have heat pumps with auxiliary and emergency heat, multi-speed fan, obviously your power terminals there, humidifier, dehumidifier. So really 95% of systems, there are systems out there, the real high-end communicating stuff that the Nest isn't going to work on, but the majority of 24-volt systems, the Nest is going to be good to go. So what's different about installing the Nest thermostat? The first thing you'll notice is that we're not going to need jumper wires on the thermostat. So you're going to pull those jumper wires out before you go into installation. The other thing is silent relays. So this might be something the homeowner thinks their heat's not turning on because they don't hear that click anymore. So they are going to be silent relays. The other thing I think this is nice is they're press connectors. So I know it's hard to see on here, but you don't see a place to screw those in. You're going to slide the wire in and then those are going to press down and lock into place there. So no silent relays, press connectors, jumper wire. That's the only thing about actually wiring the thermostat that's very different. System match we'll talk about, and pro setup we'll get into a little bit here as well. But I mentioned this is available for you guys. We can get the link, I'm sure, sent out afterwards here. But if you're wondering, hey, I got this dual fuel system, I got something weird going on, is this compatible with the Nest thermostat? There is a way to check that online. So this is what the compatibility checker looks like. We're going to get started. Here I'm going to select the wires. So I have an R, W, Y2, Y1, C, and G. Those are just the wires we selected here. You're going to go, did you enter all your wires? Yes, I entered all the wires here. It's going to tell you what thermostat we're compatible with. So here it's showing us the Nest Learning thermostat and also the Nest Thermostat E. Cool thing about this is it can also pop up your wiring for you. So if you don't know what's going on, you don't know how to take the old thermostat wires into the Nest, the connectors are throwing you off, you can pull this wiring. So this is the option to print that, email that, get an installation guide for those wires you plugged in there. So that's a link, be sure to get out, but it is something just to double check and make sure when you're going into a job that the thermostat is compatible with the system. So we talked about these connectors here. Don't need to spend a whole lot of time, but I guess you guys are familiar with all of these terminals, probably except the star. So that's one that's a little different than other thermostats you deal with. So the star connector, I mentioned this earlier, but this is where, call this our utility player. So a utility player in baseball, they can play first base, they can play second base, they can play left field. They're all over the place, but they can only play one position at once. So that's the same way with the star connector. We can do these 4 different things: humidifier, dehumidifier, third stage of heating, emergency heat, but we can only do one at a time. So we'll talk about configuring those and what that looks like, but those are the different things that that star connector can do there. Nest Thermostat E connectors, we looked at these, but again, the star terminal is combined with the OB terminal there, so just not as many terminals, not as much you can do with it, not as compatible with as many systems. So cool, once we get the thermostat wired up, this screen, imagine the black picture there is what you're seeing on the thermostat screen. So power is restored, thermostat's ready to go, you have it wired up. Here's what you're going to see. First, pretty straightforward, we're going to select our language. Here I'm going to go with English. Next, you're going to select that. So anytime you're selecting, you're just going to press down. That's going to select and take you to the next one. You'll see there, language, a check mark is next to language. That means we've checked that off. We're good to go. We'll go on to the next one here. So internet connection. Before I go any further, it's important to make sure when you're going to install a thermostat that the homeowner has two things ready. They have the Nest app downloaded and they have their Wi-Fi password ready to go. Making sure homeowners have this ready for you is going to save you a bunch of time, a bunch of headache. You don't want to get to a job and they're trying to figure out how to download the app. They're walking around the house with a sheet of paper with the Wi-Fi password. It's best just to have someone call, give a heads up, hey, I'm on the way, we're putting in a Nest today. Make sure you have your Wi-Fi password, and if you can, go in and download the Nest app. It'll save you a lot of time, a lot of headache if they have that ready to go when you get there. So internet connection, we talked about all the things you can do through Wi-Fi, through your phone. This is where we have to have an internet connection. You can skip this step if you need to, but it's best to do it during installation here. So it's going to search for your Wi-Fi name. Hopefully the homeowner has this written down. They have their password ready to go. You're going to select the Wi-Fi in the house that they want this connected to. Again, next you're going to enter the Wi-Fi password. So this, do get the feedback that this process takes a little bit of time because you have to scroll through all these different letters. You have to go here to capitalize. But we do need you to enter that Wi-Fi password and then we'll be good to go. If you're having problems connecting to the internet, a lot of times it is a problem with the local Wi-Fi. So simple things like having the homeowner reset their router. If you can't get it figured out, you can skip this. It'll just be a couple added steps for the homeowners later on. So next, after we're connected to the internet, the thermostat's going to automatically check for software updates. So if this is a thermostat that's been sitting on a truck for a while, it might need some software updates. So it's going to take just a minute or two, not much longer than that. It's going to automatically download these software updates for the thermostat over the Wi-Fi. Nothing you have to do, it'll do that. You'll see the next screen here that shows your location when you're ready to go. We're going to press continue once you're on your location. Your location lets Nest set the local time and determine the weather forecast. So like I said, via the Wi-Fi connection, Nest will show you city and zip code of location. Just verify this is right. So this is in Tucson, Arizona, 85719. Say that zip code's off a little bit, you can select no and update that zip code to the appropriate one. Again, this is important for the weather information, for the date and time. Next, it's going to ask you to describe the install location. So here we're going to select single family. There are options single family, multifamily, apartment, condo, business, but here we're in a home, we're going to select single family. So this next, it's going to ask you, Nest will prompt you for the exact location or room where you're installing it. So we had a question earlier about the room name. This is where it's important to make sure the thermostat's put into the correct room. So there's all these different options here. There's a basement, there's the bedroom, the den, the dining room, so on and so forth. You're going to select which room it's in. If you don't see the name of the room, there is an option to type in a room name that you'd want. If there's a room name you don't see, if you have weird names for your room, or if you just want to name the thermostat based on what they are, if this is thermostat ABC, go ahead and do that. There is the option to do that. But again, this is important to make sure we get them in the right room, because if there are other products added, we want the homeowner to have that view from their app of each individual room. Next up, heating and cooling. So it's going to ask you, we're going to go into this set, and it's going to say, Nest will ask if you're a homeowner or pro installer. Obviously, you guys are all pros, so you're going to select, yes, I'm a pro. It's going to give you this big warning here. Incorrect pro settings will cause unexpected HVAC activity or equipment damage. We're going to continue through that because we know you know what you're doing, not something we have to worry about. So here, we talked about that pro ID. That's why it's so important. Save that pro ID number in your phone as a contact. We were talking about the homeowner that couldn't find their Wi-Fi password. We don't want to make the homeowner sit there while you're calling someone in the office to find your pro ID number. Just adding time to the install. Just make sure you have that saved in your phone and you're good to go. So you're going to enter your pro ID information. If you do forget, for whatever reason, no one will pick up the phone, there is the option to skip this. Could go back later and install the pro ID if that's something you want to do. But again, this is where it's going to embed your contact information based on that pro ID number into the homeowner's thermostat and activate that extended warranty. Next up, so you saw on one slide it said Pro Setup. Here's where that Pro Setup comes into play. So the thermostat's gonna determine what wires are connected. So you see here we have Y1, Y2, G, OB, W2, C, and R. The ones that are green on there, so you're going to see this screen on the thermostat. The ones that are green mean they're good to go. Means Nest, the thermostat knows exactly what those wires are. They know what they're controlling. That's just based on the system match feature. They know what they're supposed to control. The ones in yellow, you're going to have to check, and you're going to have to identify a couple of things. So we're going to go to Y1. We're going to select that. You're going to press down on the thermostat, and it's going to ask you a couple questions. So it's going to say, it recognizes a heat pump, electric heat, and then it's going to ask the delivery. So if this is forced air, that's where you're going to select forced air there. There's different options on there. So depending on the system, you're going to know the system, what it is, what they're running. That's where you're going to select those options. Again, we'll go to Y2 and do this. Same exact thing. You're going to tell it what's going on there. So that's heat pump stage 2, cool, forced air, continue. We're going to go to OB. You will now select the reversing valve orientation, in this case O, and tell Nest when to activate. In this case, we're going to do seasonally. The options are seasonally in each cycle. Seasonally is what we normally see. And that's the common feature there. But again, once you select all these, it's going to show you your system. So you have heat pump heating, auxiliary heating. So you see there W2, that's going to be our auxiliary heat. You have your heat pump cooling. And you have cooling stage 2, so your Y2 there, and then G, your fan, and your common wire. So it's going to tell you your system. You're going to confirm that that's correct and press continue. This next step, again, is a pretty simple one. It's just going to ask, should Nest begin by heating or cooling your home? So this should be a pretty straightforward one. Depending on the weather outside, what the homeowner wants to do, you're going to select either whether we should heat or cool. Next up, we talked a lot about those eco temperatures. This is where in installation you can set those eco temperatures. So say the homeowner got tired of watching you install it, they went away. This is something they can adjust later, but if they're there with you, you can talk to the homeowner about, hey, this is what we think about set points. This is what we do for setback temperatures. This is what we've done in the past. This is where energy savings are going to come from. Or if you don't want these set points, hey, I don't think we should use this. You have an irregular schedule. People are coming and going. We don't want to use these. That's really up to you guys in that conversation with the homeowner there. Next, once we're done selecting that, we're done with temperature.
Griffin, I got a question real quick from Bob. So he asked, does it matter in normal system if you connect the R wire to the RC or RH, or is there a preference?
No, so that doesn't matter. I mentioned earlier no jumper wires. I forgot to mention that these are jumped internally. So if you see on the base here, either side is going to work when you just have one system there.
Okay.
Any more? We good?
I have a question from Edward. It's more generic. It's like, so if a customer moves to a new home and wants to take the Nest with them, will it keep the programming?
So if yeah, the thermostat, once they get that log back into their app, that stuff's still going to be in there. So there is a way to go into the thermostat. We don't need to jump into this, but there is a way to reset different settings. So say they're moving and another example, someone's moving, new homeowner, you sold the Nest with the house. It adds a ton of value to the house, so we kept the thermostat. There is a way to go in there and reset everything. So no longer you have that information, you don't have the Wi-Fi information, all that's gone.
So there's a way to set it back to factory.
Yep.
But if you take it with you and you put it on a new system,
yeah, just because we lost power, we're not going to lose all those different settings.
Obviously, you'd have to reset it if you have a different setup.
Yeah, so that's going to be something where, hey, you went from a heat pump to whatever else it is. Just a dual fuel gas furnace. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there are stuff that comes up there, but if you're going to something similar, the schedule is going to stay in there.
Okay. All right.
Cool. So yeah, the next thing is system test. This one has a lot of different parts to it, but really it's just going to ask, okay, here we're going to go through a test. So obviously if it's cold enough out, we're going to run the test on heating. You're going to make sure the heat turns on. Do the same for cooling and the fan. We don't need to walk through all those. But the last thing here is adding the thermostat to the Nest app. So Nest will ask you if you want to control the thermostat with the Nest app. Obviously, the homeowner can't wait to get this thing on the app. They're standing there with their app ready since you called them on your way over, and they're ready to go. So yes, I want to add this to the Nest app. What's going to happen is you're gonna, on the Nest app, you're gonna press add a product again, and instead of scanning a QR code this time, it's gonna give you an entry key. So in the app, your customer will select add a product, like I said there under settings. Thermostat, you're gonna select Nest thermostat, and then it's gonna ask you if the thermostat's already installed. Thermostat's on the wall, it's installed, and then we're gonna enter this, so the thermostat's gonna display a 6-digit entry key. You see here, 130 task, T-A-S-K, that's gonna be the entry key to get that thermostat added to the app. So once the thermostat's added to the app, there was no problems there, we're good to go. This is the screen you're going to see here. Again, I mentioned that 67 is the current temperature. 75 is going to be, 75 is the set to temperature, 67 is the current temperature there. So here we're good, the cool set to 75, for whatever reason it's 67 in that house. We're going to go to setting, like I mentioned a few times, settings is under the gear icon. So this is going to be something, anytime you're messing with the thermostat, you can see on the main screen. So you're going to go to settings. A lot of the settings I talked about are going to reside under that Nest Sense. But there's other things in here that you can do. You can set a fan schedule. You can set a fan to run continuously. There's filter reminders. There's all types of different stuff that you can view from this screen. You can adjust the display. I mentioned you can show the weather, different clocks. That's all going to be done on that main screen there once you get the thermostat installed. I want to talk real quick about a couple of systems that are not compatible with the Nest thermostat. So proprietary and communicating systems, millivolt systems. So not a whole lot of systems, but anything communicating, like low hung gas heaters. A lot of times they're low voltage. So there are some systems that aren't going to work with the thermostat, but not a whole lot. Really, it's the communicating stuff that we run into the most. Here's the Nest Thermostat E. Again, just more options, dual fuel, just not as many terminals on that Nest Thermostat E. So there are more incompatible systems. Do we have a question here?
Yeah, we have a couple questions.
All right, cool.
One's from Ferris. He asks, so if it's in a rental property, does the owner still have control of the thermostat or just the tenant?
So that's going to be really up to, I guess, the owner. Whether they are going to keep control. I'd imagine that if you're owning a property, you're going to give your control to the tenant. But that's really going to be up to the owner, I guess, then. Because whoever's going to have control in the Nest app, whoever adds that product to the app, that's where that's going to come from. So that's really going to be a discussion. I don't know, if I was living somewhere, I wouldn't want my landlord to be controlling my temperature, but that's going to be something that comes up to the owner of the place.
Okay. Next question's from Ray on reversing valves. So how do you change the energize and heat or cool depending on the equipment, O versus B?
So how do you say it one more time?
Yeah, so on reversing valves with a heat pump, how do you change the energizing and heat or cool depending on the equipment, whether it energizes an O versus B? So you're saying that the star terminal is how you would use, so like in a heat pump scenario.
Yeah, yep. So in the heat pump, that OB terminal's there. They're one terminal there.
Sure.
So
is it in the settings where you would determine if?
Oh, for each, yeah. So like that seasonally versus each cycle that we talked about there.
Well, just so some equipment will energize in the O versus the B. So I imagine within the settings of the thermostat.
Yeah, you go in there and that's when you'd identify. So when we were going through that pro setup or the system match, and you're identifying each wire, that's where you're going to have the option there to tell the thermostat what the system's doing.
Okay. Then John asks, can you set a high temp and low temp lockout?
Lockout. So we can't set safety temperatures? Is that?
Well, basically, it just prevents you from going either too high.
Yeah, so so we call those safety temperatures. That's something I didn't mention, but that is something we can set. So that's even if the thermostat is off, those safety temperatures will still come into play there.
Okay.
So as long as it's powered, even if you have it not in heating or cooling mode, say you have your safety temperature at 40 degrees in the winter, it's not going to drop below that safety temperature.
Okay. So would you use the same thing if you really didn't want someone to be able to set the temperature to, say, 78 degrees and they could
Yeah, I
crank
guess,
it up?
yeah. But so that brings up something else. There's the option to put a 4-digit pin on the thermostat too. So instead of putting one of those, if you don't want to put a plastic case around it, you can put a pin on it. Or if you don't like the way your kids mess with the thermostat all the time, go ahead and put a pin on there for them. So that would be a way to lock them out. But yeah, there are safety temperatures that can be set.
Yeah, so I'm not saying that everyone or every we'll say, husband has ever done this, where they set certain temperatures where the thermostat can run, but then maybe someone else controls the thermostat and thinks that they're changing it to 70.
Yeah, so if you're doing that, that's when you you still have your thermostat on the wall there, but you have another one wired somewhere else that's controlling the furnace there.
Kenny asks this: Can you remove jumper between the R and RC if you have two power sources?
So it will work. You can go into both sides with two power sources. So you can go into the RC and the RH if there's two power sources, one for cooling, one for heat. So that is an option there.
Okay.
And you don't have to remove the internal jumper.
You don't have to move anything?
No, you don't have to remove, sorry.
Okay. Val asks, what is the best way to connect the Nest to a Honeywell zone system?
So that's going to be another, just for the sake of time, we don't get into wiring on all that with different zones, but there are options, like I said, to have a thermostat in each zone. But as far as specific questions, that's where it's best to go to these guys here at Jackson and they'll get those.
Yeah, I imagine it would just be very similar to the way you would wire it up to the equipment.
Yeah, so you're going to have coming off your board, yeah.
Yeah.
Coming off your board, you're going to have
most thermostats, most zone boards, whether it be Honeywell's or whoever's, is going to have the same type of terminals as you would for your equipment.
And that's where you're going to come off. So that's the way zoning works with multiple thermostats. You're going to come off that board and have the same wiring usually. Real quick, I'll just talk about these last couple here, just some troubleshooting ideas. So stranded wires aren't supported. We don't want stranded wires going into the thermostat. Should be pretty straightforward. But the common wire, this is one that comes up a lot. Our recommendation, you see, best practice, use when available. So the thermostat will, both the E and the learning thermostat, it is able to steal power without a common wire. It's able to steal power and keep the battery charged when the system's running to keep that battery charged. But the best practice is to use that common wire whenever you can. So if you can add a wire, if the common wire is there, obviously using it. But it is best to use that common wire, run a common wire. There's different add-a-wire kits out there, but it is best to use the common wire anytime you can. Cool, before we move on to the Nest Protect, do we have any more on the thermostat, or should we head on to the Nest Protect?
Marco asks, is there any way to get more than 10 days history from your thermostat?
Don't believe so. In the energy history, I think that's just what you're going to see. You can double check on that if there's a way online to download that information, but I don't think so.
Ferris asks, is there any way that protects the thermostat from an over amperage or under amperage or too much voltage? So if you wired more than 24 or 40 volts.
Yeah, if you wire, yeah, you can still fry the thermostat there. So not something to protect that if you have too much voltage running to it or if you do something else there. Cool, well, we'll circle back on the thermostat, but I want to talk about the Nest Protect smoke and CO detector. So I have a video here that shows Nest Protect, a lot of the way it went through testing, a lot of the features on that. I think this video does a really good job of just showing what the Nest Protect is, how it was made, how it was designed, and what it can do. Really think this product is a product that's, have it in my home, would trust a product that's going to save lives just based on a lot of the settings here.
In the 70s, it took about 30 minutes for a fire to get out of control. But today, it could take less than 5. So with Nest Protect, we started from scratch. Tested different kinds of materials, we tested different kinds of fires. And once we met industry standards, we still weren't satisfied. It's pretty incredible the level of effort we've been through to make sure that Nest Protect is the best smoke alarm it can be.
Most photoelectric alarms have one wavelength of light. And when the particles hit that light, the alarm goes off. Nest Protect has that too, which is great at detecting the large particles caused by slow smoldering fires. But because of modern materials like polyurethane foam and particle board, fires burn a lot faster than they used to. And when fires burn faster, the particles are smaller. So we added a second, shorter wavelength, which is better at detecting smaller particles. We had seen this type of sensor in commercial buildings, but never in a residential smoke alarm. And that didn't make sense to us. Why would a commercial building have better technology than your home?
UL tests thousands of different products And one of the most rigorous set of tests is for smoke alarms. We do durability tests. We do tests like wood, paper, heptane, flaming, smoldering tests. We even do a drop test on smoke alarms. Nest has asked us to test some of the newer requirements using polyurethane foam. Nest Protect has passed all the applicable tests.
A lot of times, people take their smoke alarms down because of false alerts while cooking, or when dust or bugs get in. So with Nest Protect, we really wanted to focus on reducing nuisance alarms. We created a special scoop design that allows smoke to easily enter the chamber, but then we surround it with a hexagonal mesh that keeps insects and dust out. And we exposed the devices to many kinds of insects, and we made sure that none of them could get inside. To test against dust, we built a large chamber. And each cycle of the chamber simulated 1 year of environmental exposure in a household condition. We've also developed our own algorithms that help us differentiate between steam and smoke. So your Nest Protect is less likely to go off when you're cooking or taking a shower.
We've tested Nest Protect out in the field, in real homes, and we've logged over 70,000 days of testing. It's certified by internationally recognized testing facilities. And the testing doesn't stop once you buy Nest Protect. It tests itself constantly once it's in your home, over 400 times a day, automatically, so you can be sure Nest Protect is working to keep your family safe. Meet the new Nest Protect.
Cool. I think that video does a good job of showing the rigorous testing that the Nest Protect went through, but also the sensors in here are pretty impressive. That split spectrum sensor, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But that was really a commercial grade sensor that they incorporated into the Nest Protect here. So we'll walk through most of these here. So first we'll start with just a little bit about it. So there are two versions. Here I have the battery powered version. So you see in the back there are just 6 lithium AA batteries, and there's also a hardwired version. There's 120 volt pigtail included. There's no communication wire, so this is going to use this low frequency Bluetooth to communicate to the other Nest Protect, so you're not daisy chaining or wiring them together. And then it's going to come with 3 lithium AA backup batteries.
Sorry, I got one question.
Yep, got a question here.
Back before. So Clint is asking real quick, is there any issues using a wire saver module when enabling hooking up the common terminal?
Like an add-a-wire?
Yeah, an add-a-wire.
Yeah, no, that's actually a recommendation we have, is to add a wire, use one of those add-a-wires to get that common wire. So yeah, that is something we actually recommend.
Does Nest provide?
Nest does not provide one, so that'd be something not provided with the thermostat.
Okay.
But it works there. So Nest Protect, we talked about battery hardwired. One thing I want to point out is these older smoke alarms, even CO detectors, they do have a shelf life. So if you look on the back of the Nest Protect, it's going to have a manufacture date and a replace by date. These things are going to have the same thing. If you look at that one, it's probably an expiration date of 1998. But a lot of them only had a 5-year lifespan. So homeowners think just because the thing's chirping and making noise, the light blinks every once in a while, that it's working fine. Well, the sensor might not be working fine in there. The sensor is 20 years old. Who knows how well that's going to work when there is actually an emergency. So the Nest Protect does have a 10-year lifespan on it. And that's just something that the sensors could be working after that, but that's how long they're allowed to be rated for. So split spectrum sensor you saw in the video here, but that sensor, it's using these wavelengths to look for particles. So there's one wavelength that looks for the fast burning particles, another one that looks for those slow burning smaller or larger particles. So that eliminates a lot of false alarms, and it's going to be a lot more accurate, a lot quicker to detect when it does go into this emergency mode. So next I'm going to just walk through the operation of the Nest Protect. The ability to hush the alarm that some will talk about. So instead of you burn dinner in the kitchen, something goes wrong, the thing's not just going to start going off like crazy because of a little bit of smoke. I'll show you that. You don't have to worry about hitting the old one off with a broom. The Nest Protect you can just silence instead of the thing going off all night just because you burnt the toast. So it's going to give you a warning before it alarms. And this is just a heads up. It's going to tell you, heads up, there's smoke in the kitchen. Just in this mode, there's not a lot of smoke. It's at a level where it doesn't need to go into the full alert mode, and you're going to be able to silence that alarm. So on your phone, you're going to go on there. It's going to give you this notification, and you're going to be able to silence the alarm if it's not an emergency. So there, you're just going to hold your finger down on the app, and you're going to be able to silence that alarm so it's not going to continue to go off. When there is trouble, though, it's going to go into emergency mode, and that's going to be something you can't silence. So this is what it sounds like when you do go into that emergency mode.
Emergency. There's smoke in the hallway.
So this is going to be something that you can't silence. It's in emergency mode because of smoke. The next slide is going to show you something cool, that if you have 3 of these, you have one downstairs in the basement, one in the kitchen, and one upstairs outside the bedroom. Each alarm is going to alert, and it's going to tell you where that smoke's coming from. So if there's smoke in the kitchen, the one in the basement, the one upstairs is going to tell you the same thing. So I'll show you what that looks like here on this.
There's carbon monoxide in the den. There's carbon monoxide in the den.
So
there's carbon monoxide in the den. There's carbon monoxide in the den.
So there's carbon monoxide in the den. Each Nest Protect is going to tell you that exact same thing. They're not wired together. This is communicating wirelessly, and they're each going to tell you that. You're going to get that notification on your phone. If the Wi-Fi goes out, these are still able to communicate. You're not going to get the notification on your phone, but they're still going to alert out loud, still going to communicate with each other through this low frequency Bluetooth is what it's called. Whenever,
are you going to talk about like parts per million for CO detection?
So we could touch on that. Actually, so if you list on the back, they just have listed what it's at per code, what it is required to be at. So if you look at the back of the Nest Protect, it'll actually tell you. So this is CO sensitivity, but it says if exposed to CO at 70 parts per million, the device will alarm, and then it gives you the different time, how long it's going to take to alarm. I don't have it with me right now, just listed when that first detection is going to come from. That's something that we could get out.
70 is a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, and I know they have it set where at a certain decibel level it has to alert. It has to alert at this decibel level at this parts per million. So that is built in there. I just don't have all those numbers committed to memory right now.
Okay.
So everything's okay. You're going to get this green circle. It's going to tell you.
The smoke alarm is over. In the hallway.
It's going to tell you the smoke alarm's over. A couple other things that the Nest Protect has built into it. It also, if you have this mounted outside your bedroom, it also works as a night light or a path light. So you walk underneath that. I said earlier, it has a motion sensor in there. The light's going to turn on. So there's no more stubbing your foot at night. You're walking to go to the bathroom in the dark hallway. Cool thing about this is it's also testing its sensors continuously throughout the day. So these aren't going to be tests you know about, but it's making sure it's connected to the Wi-Fi still. It's making sure its sensors work, and every once in a while you are going to hear a test where it alerts out loud just to make sure that the microphone and speakers are still working. Like I said, again, this doubles as a motion or an activity sensor for the thermostat. Here's some of the other ways the products integrate with each other. When Nest Protect alarms a smoke or CO, the Nest Learning Thermostat, if you have both of these together, it's going to shut off the HVAC system. The idea here is if there's a fire in the house, we don't want air blown throughout with the HVAC system. The other thing, you have a Nest Cam, it's automatically going to start recording and save that footage for you. So here's an idea of what that would look like. There's an emergency, it's going to record that for you. You're going to be able to see what's going on. If you're not home, you can watch, make sure everyone's all right, or save that video for some sort of insurance purposes. I'm going to jump into installation of the Protect here. Do we have any questions we need to hit before installation?
Yeah, real quick. First question I have is from John. Do you have to have a T-stat, or can you have the Nest Protect without a stat?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I actually forgot to talk about that. So all these products, I showed you some of the integrations together, but you don't have to have a thermostat. The thermostat's just the one we talk about a lot because it's the most popular product, but you don't have to have a thermostat. You don't have to have a camera. Say you just want a Nest Protect, you can have just a Nest Protect. There's no one product you have to have for the others to work.
Sure. The next question is from Oscar. He asks, can the Nest Protect be connected to a monitoring central station company?
So that's going to be something that's done through like there's third-party options available, like third-party apps, but not something direct with the Protect.
Unless they have the security system, right?
Yeah, so there are different options, but not just, that would be something you set up third-party, but by itself, not right now.
Yeah, if they get the Nest security system, I know the Protect will
Yeah, there's
integrate.
options for that mod, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what type of smoke detector it has? Is photolytic?
Yeah, yeah, it does. So it has, I mentioned that split spectrum. I can't
we're both
speak
having,
either
yeah,
now.
right?
The split spectrum sensor. So it is using that photoelectric. It's looking for those two. There has two of them in there, so it's looking for the fast burning and the slow burning particles in there.
That's it for now.
Cool. So I want to talk about insulation, but again, this is something that's I think is great. I mentioned, hey, ask the homeowner when you're in there, I'm putting in a new furnace. Do you mind if I check your smoke detectors? You're going to notice those expiration dates are years in the past, and installation on these can be pretty straightforward and pretty simple. So again, we want them to. You're going to need the Nest app. To add this product to the app, you're going to go again to Settings, Add Product, and on the back of this is the battery-powered one here. There's going to be a QR code. I know that's kind of hard to see there, but there is a QR code. You're going to scan that, and then the Nest app is going to guide you through the rest. So it's going to help get connected to the internet and pair with the other Protects in the home. Obviously, we're going to take out that old, whatever smoke alarm you had there, CO detector you had. We're going to clean that area where that old one was. You're going to take off the mounting plate for the old one. You're going to take off everything, and you're going to install the Nest, the mounting plate for the Protect. So again, this is all the mounting plate is. You see one thing here, I know it's probably hard to see on the screen, but there is a Nest logo. You want this Nest logo facing away from the wall when you install it. So these comes with 4 self-tapping screws. You're going to screw that into place. And it's pretty simple. You're just going to slide the Protect on there in a counterclock fashion until it does lock into place there. So you're going to continue turning. You'll hear it click, and it's going to be square with the wall, and you're good to go. At that point, you can press the button to test the Nest Protect, and it's going to walk you through some more prompts speaking to you there. Touch on some troubleshooting tips. But if it's offline in the Nest app, a lot of times this could be excuse me, an issue that could be resolved by restarting the router, checking if the Nest app is up to date, make sure you have the most recent version. So a lot of times that could be an issue with the Wi-Fi, not actually an issue with the Protect. There are some error codes here, so if you get a P002 error code, means setup may have timed out for whatever reason. It's taken too long, setup timed out, it wasn't able to add the product.
Where will you see those codes?
That would be on the app. You would be able to see those error codes there. P009, service interruption, so maybe there is something on Nest end, you're not able to add the Protect for whatever reason. Don't need to go through the whole list, but there's just some error codes that you could get. Shouldn't be some that's very common, but something you can easily look up there. So there's this battery tab you're going to remove before you install the thermostat. It should light up and speak to you at that point. If that doesn't happen, then we may need to remove the batteries and reset it. So by removing the batteries, make sure you get all that plastic out of there. Make sure the batteries are touching each end there. Press down on each battery to make sure both ends are touching. You're good to go. You get it back into place, you should be good to go. It'll light up and you'll get that welcome message. So that's just a quick issue. There could be plastic stuck in there that's not. Once that tab's removed, that's when you'll first get the welcome message. False smoke alarms. This could be maybe homeowners had this thing for 6 months out of the box, but they threw it in the garage and decided now they wanted it installed. Just make sure you can take off, there's screws here on the back, you can take off this cover, clean the inside there, and that could be why you're getting false alarms or a notification the smoke sensor failed. So just go in there, damp cloth, clean off the inside there, and you should be good to go. That's all I got on Nest Protect for now. If we don't have anything, I'll move on and talk about a few of the other products.
Do you know if this is from if they have considered a low-level CO detector for the lower levels of industry standards?
Yeah, so right now there's not one for those real low levels. It's feedback could pass along, but nothing right now for those real low levels.
Okay.
CO detection. Cool. I'm going to talk about the cameras here a little bit. So I'll pull up, show you guys what a couple of these cameras look like here. So this is going to be an indoor camera. This is going to be an outdoor camera here. And this is going to be the Nest Hello video doorbell. So we'll talk about all these here. So 2 indoor, 2 outdoor cameras, and then the Nest Hello video doorbell. First we'll talk about the cameras. So setup is extremely easy. You see here, this is the indoor camera. If you don't need to mount it somewhere, all we're going to do is take this, plug it into a wall out. You're going to first add the product to the app, again scanning the code, plug it in to power. You're going to be pretty much good to go from there. So this is something that's really easy to add to a job that you're already at. Say, hey, we offer the whole Google Nest product portfolio. I have a camera here. Plug it in. You're good to go. 24/7 live streaming. So this is true on all the cameras. A lot of other cameras, they have a motion sensor, and they only turn on when they sense motion. The Nest cameras have constant power, and they're constantly recording. So I can go on my phone and I can look at my camera stream at any time. Night vision. So there's these high power infrared LEDs in these cameras that help with the night vision. I'll show you a slide on that. But the night version is pretty impressive on the cameras. You can talk and listen, so there's a speaker and microphone in each camera, so I can hear exactly what's going on, as well as talk through that camera. So if there's someone out there who shouldn't be, I can give them a nice scare by talking through the camera. Sound and activity alerts. So you can get alerts for motion, alerts for sound, alerts for activity. Talk about kind of how that works. But this is the Nest Cam indoor, and then the Nest Cam outdoor. Again, installation is pretty simple on those. Weatherproof, we have the rating I think down to 0 degrees on the outdoor camera, so it's going to operate even at 0 degrees. Again, the good thing with live streaming is we're not waiting to sense motion. We're recording all the time, and you're not going to miss anything that happened in that video feed there. So again, this just kind of highlights the night vision. So if you see this picture here, this is what a lot of standard cameras look like in night vision. You get that white glare where they're trying to use that infrared, but you just get that glare around the circle of the camera. On the Nest, you get more of these infrareds are positioned so they're spread out evenly throughout the camera, and you're going to get a lot clearer view. It is going to be black and white because that's how these infrared LED cameras work, but you are going to get a very clear view from the whole picture. Okay, that's just comparing the 2 images there. So I mentioned 4 cameras. There's 2 indoor, 2 outdoor. So the difference is we have the Nest Cam Indoor and the Nest Cam IQ. So what IQ means for both the indoor and the outdoor is that you're going to get something called Super Sight. So what this means is on this camera, there's no motor on here that's making the camera turn once it's installed. You're going to position it how it's positioned, and it's going to stay like that. What it can do, though, is it'll capture it. It'll sense someone's walking through the picture, and it is able to zoom in on that person and follow them throughout the screen. The other thing it can do is it'll learn to recognize faces. So the first time someone walks by the camera, it's going to send you a notification, hey, unfamiliar face. Well, if this is someone you know, you do have the option to go in there, name this person, and you're going to get familiar alerts going forward. Again, you can get alerts for people, you can get alerts for motion, and then again that familiar face alerts. But HD, talk and listen, and also the IQ cameras do have the Google Assistant built into those as well. So the same with the IQ outdoor, the same idea, weatherproof. You're going to get that Super Sight where you can zoom in on these people. You get familiar face alerts, and then the extreme weatherproofing on the outdoor camera as well. So this just shows installation there. So I'll show you how straightforward it is to install the outdoor camera. But you're just going to have this mounting plate that's going to screw into the place you're putting it. You're going to run the wire through there into the camera. So on the IQ outdoor, the wiring is hidden, so someone can't come up and cut that wire. A lot of times the hardest part about installation is just finding a wall outlet that this can plug into. Good places to look a lot of times in the attic, sometimes there's spare outlets. Where you plug in your garage door opener, also there's outlets up there. But again, just showing that the IQ camera, they got rid of that plug in the middle, and also they hid the wire so it is not exposed on the camera. Nest Aware, someone asked earlier about a subscription service. So there is a subscription available for the cameras. This is actually where you can pay a monthly fee for more video footage storage. So there is an option. This is done between the homeowner and Nest. It's not something that you need to worry about or get involved with, but it is an option. Another cool thing with this subscription service, you unlock this thing called Activity Zone. So you see here on the chocolate cake, you're seeing what that looks like. So they don't want a notification anytime someone walks by. They only want to know if someone grabs that cake there. This can be used in the driveway. So you live on a busy road. You can just get notification when someone pulls in the driveway, not the whole time cars are driving by on a busy street. So again, go through this quickly, but step by step, you're going to scan that QR code. I talked about how easy this mounting plate is, getting that camera into place there. There's the installation there. It's real simple, just a mounting plate that the camera locks into. Now I went through the cameras pretty quickly there, but do we have anything on the cameras?
Oscar asked, can the outdoor camera zoom in and take a picture of a car's license plate? What's the quality level?
I haven't tried that, so I'm not sure off the top of my head if you could get a license plate picture. But it is real quality, 1080 HD video there. So it's a high quality picture. I'm just not sure about a car driving by. I haven't tried that one yet.
Okay. And Craig's asked a few questions about IR for indoor and outdoor cameras. How does it see well in the dark?
Yeah, so those like that picture I showed, the infrared LEDs on there are pretty impressive. I think on the IQ they actually give you a range of 50 feet of night vision, so that's how far you can see out.
Okay.
Cool, I'm going to go to the Nest Hello here, the video doorbell. So the same features are true. The one thing I didn't mention on the cameras, on the IQ cameras, that's true with the Hello as well, the Nest Hello. So this is your doorbell here. The bottom's going to act as your doorbell button, and then you have your camera up top there. But HDR, so high dynamic range imaging. So what this does is it's taking several pictures, several images of the same shot, and it's taking the sharpest image to show you on the video. So that's kind of where that high quality video comes from there. Again, this is what you get. You get your doorbell at the bottom, your camera at the top, your microphone. Again, you can talk and listen through this product just like the other cameras. Some cool things you can do here. So everyone's stuck at home. We're getting a lot of stuff delivered from Amazon. When a package shows up on your front door, the Nest Hello can actually recognize that a package is there on your front porch. It'll send you a notification. So that's a cool way of knowing, hey, I got a package. You'll get a notification that the package is actually sitting there. Talked about the high dynamic range imaging and how that works and how that leads to a better camera quality. Cool things you can do. So this does hook up to your existing chime. So you can do things like set how long the chime rings for. You can also silence the doorbell. So the kid's asleep, you don't want the doorbell going off, they can go in there and silence that doorbell for a certain amount of time. No, I went through the doorbell pretty quickly there. Did we have any questions come in on that? Or?
Real quick on general, how can you tell if your device is out of range of Wi-Fi?
Yeah, so you'll get a notification if your camera goes offline. So that'd be something you get on
cameras or Protect
yeah,
or any
so you'd
device.
get notifications for that. Also during installation, it's going to stop you. You're going to get an error when trying to install if you're not connected to Wi-Fi. Lastly, I just want to finish with discussion of some of these other products made by Google that are available to you through Jackson Systems. So you see here the Google Nest Mini, Google Home, Nest Hub Max, and then the Google Wi-Fi, Nest Wi-Fi there. So we'll talk about these. But the Nest Hub, if you're familiar with like a Google Home Mini, the Google Assistant, this is a Google Assistant with a built-in screen here. So it can do a lot of different things, but as a digital photo frame, you can watch YouTube videos here. But what I want to talk about is how both of these products can serve as your kind of a base and a control center for your smart home products. So Nest Hub Max comes with a Nest camera built in there. Again, it has the Google Assistant. It'll work as a speaker. You can make video messages, watch YouTube videos, all types of different stuff here. So just some of the display options we have: clock faces, personal photos, images for online. cool thing with that is Google Photos. So you can set it up so your Nest Hub is showing you video. You can select an album that you have in Google Photos, and it'll play through those as your digital photo frame there for you. But other things, so you're used to asking Google for directions. Say, hey Google, how far away is this? Instead, now you can ask Google that, and it's going to actually pop directions up on the screen for you. But the big thing here is home control and monitoring. So this can serve as a control center for all your different smart home products, whether they're Google Nest products or another brand. You're going to be able to, as long as they integrate with the Google Assistant, you're going to use this as a control center for your smart home products. I'll show you here in just a slide or two what that looks like. But again, map and directions you can pull up on this screen. Another cool thing you can do is say, hey Google, show me my front door camera. It's going to pull up the footage from your camera. That'll work with any of your cameras, so you could pull up, if you're sitting in the kitchen, you could see what's going on in any other cameras there. But routines, reminders, the weather, all that stuff's going to be accessible here on the Nest Hub. But this is really what I wanted to talk about, is working as a control center for your smart home products. You don't have to have this. Obviously, the smart home products can work on their own, but this just gives you the option. If you have lights made by someone, light outlets, cameras, you have a Nest Protect, a Nest thermostat, but you have smart home products of other brands. As long as they integrate with Google, you're going to be able to see all these products in a room-by-room view on your Nest Hub here. So it's kind of going through the different rooms. There's a living room light. Set the percentage level, the brightness. You go to your living room TV. All these different options are going to be on there. So this can really work as a control center for your smart home products. Yeah, we got a question here.
Real quick, Craig asks, are there any batteries for any of the cameras? Do you have
Okay, no, I didn't mention that. I went through those kind of quickly, but they're all, none of them have battery, no battery backup. They're all wired to constant power, so no battery option on those. So we talked about some of these integrations. The last product I want to talk about is Google Wi-Fi and Nest Wi-Fi, especially with everyone at home, or if you're installing a lot of smart home products. This creates a mesh network in the home. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the router, it's going to plug into your modem there and serve as your router, so that'll replace your existing router. But then you're going to take these points, put them around the house. So we're used to asking about hot or cold spots for heating and cooling, but what about hot or cold spots for Wi-Fi? There's definitely parts of the house that aren't getting a strong Wi-Fi network, and especially when we are installing all these smart home products. So this is something, works as a Wi-Fi repeater. It creates a network with multiple points that your Wi-Fi is being broadcasted through. Some cool things you can do with this is you can control which devices get the fastest speed. So if you're tired of the kid playing Xbox downstairs, you can slow that device down, prioritize what you're watching upstairs. Also, it's dinner time. You can shut off everyone's Wi-Fi. There's different controls on there. But these are just going to be placed around the house as Wi-Fi repeaters to help you get the speed you're actually paying for with your Wi-Fi. Another thing that's cool about this, instead of just having one, you're used to just having your router and the computer room and one side of the house. These are going to be placed throughout, so you're going to get a faster connection. But also, if one of these points goes down for whatever reason and needs to reset, you're going to have other points that are ready to go and help you get your Wi-Fi, so your whole connection won't go down there. But again, this is something that can be done through the Google Home app. I didn't talk a whole lot about that. But real simple installation on these, but it's a good product to look into when you do start installing more smart home products. Again, just real quick, want to recap on the warranties as an S Pro. So the thermostats are the only ones you input your Pro ID into, but you're going to get a 5-year extended warranty on the learning thermostat. The Nest Protect, it's going to be a different SKU than you buy from another store when you buy this through Jackson Systems, and you're going to get that extended warranty as being a Pro and buying the Pro SKU. Nest Thermostat E, a 3-year warranty, and then a 5-year extended warranty on the Nest Cam IQ Outdoor. That's all I got, as long as we don't have any more questions here, but that's all I had.
Yeah, Wayne was just asking, so do all of the products have Pro SKUs that can get warranty through Pro?
So just the ones I mentioned on that last slide there.
Okay.
And that's something we can send out, a warranty recap that shows the warranty and the Pro. But the thermostat's the only one you're actually going to enter your Pro ID into.
Okay. And Craig asked about automatic security updates. Do you know?
Yeah, so those will be sent out. You can actually look through the app and see when the last update was sent out, but those are things that are just sent through the through your Wi-Fi. Nothing you have to do there.
Okay. Next question from Ferris. Are these products need any kind of maintenance?
I wouldn't think a lot of maintenance on most of these products we've talked about here today. Like I mentioned with the Nest Protect, sometimes if it gets real dusty up there, just cleaning that out. Cameras would just be some sort of cleaning, but no real regular maintenance that you need to do on the products.
Okay.